Hi, and welcome back to our Ask the Agronomist video series. I am Phil Long, Precision Agronomy Advisor with Latham High-Tech Seeds. And over the next couple weeks, we're going to talk about what it means to have a balanced soil fertility. And specifically in regards to a couple areas, but really how all these nutrients interact and why it's important to not have one so much higher than another. So this week, we're going to be talking and focusing on why the phosphorus and zinc relationship is so important. You may have seen these in the headlines or magazine articles or heard about it at the coffee shop, but this relationship between phosphorus and zinc is really important, especially if you're growing corn and wheat or any other grass crops. So, what is the deal and what's up with phosphorus and zinc? So many times, especially in Latham country, we can see farmers that use manure or maybe just don't pay attention to a soil test when they're fertilizing can end up with high phosphorus levels. Anytime we see phosphorus levels off the charts, that can induce a zinc deficiency. Typically, if you have your zinc levels are in an okay spot, it's not going to affect them. But if we get so out of whack that the phosphorus is so much higher than the zinc, then we are still going to induce a zinc deficiency. Obviously, zinc is tied to other things. pH, once you get high soil pH, those metals such as zinc are not as available. So there's more that comes into play here, but I want to focus just in on today on the phosphorus and zinc. So why is it so important, especially with corn and wheat, like I mentioned, grass crops? Zinc plays a big role, even though it's just a micronutrient and is not required in that high of amounts when it comes to growing a corn crop. It's required to do essential things like photosynthesis, so keeping the plant green, energy production. It's involved in a lot of enzyme reactions, as well as reproduction and flowering, so everything around getting that corn crop to get as many kernels on the ear is also important, and it also plays a role in water regulation in the plant too. So just a lot of key functions in the plant that really is important when it comes to zinc and the role that it plays. And that's really why we see probably the biggest response yield-wise to applying a zinc fertilizer if you're low on zinc. Out of any of the micronutrients, that would be the one typically you can end up seeing a response. It's been shown in lots of research industry and university-wide. So it's important to pay attention to. So what do we need to look for? Well, zinc is a micro and it's not mobile in the plant. So if you're seeing symptoms of it, it's going to be in the youngest material, top of the plant. It's typically going to show up like yellowing. Can't even be white stripes kind of parallel to the leaf itself. But really where you want to pay attention to is your soil test. You want to get it before you see it in the field and really pay attention. Hopefully you're taking a soil test and getting analysis for some of those micros, zinc especially. So you want to look at that and see. So the rough guidelines to go by is 10 to 1. It's not an exact science, but if you're looking at phosphorus levels, we're just going to use parts per million as the unit, but a phosphorus level of around 50, you should have close to or around 5 parts per million on zinc. So that's not a steadfast hard rule. I like to see at least 1.5 to 2 parts per million on zinc, and I know that those levels are typically in an okay range. But once you start pushing that phosphorus level, you're gonna really upset the balance there. So you got to pay attention to that relationship between the two. If you really have much higher phosphorus levels, that zinc level may need to be a little bit higher in your soil. So some things to think about when it comes to feeding the soil or feeding your crop with zinc. Zinc sulfate fertilizers are a very effective form of zinc fertilization. There's lots of chelated versions as well for in-furrow and stuff that work really well. Just remember that those two, zinc and phosphorus, go together really well, and you got to remember that balance. There are certain zinc fertilizers that you want to pay attention to and make sure there's some zinc oxysulfates and so forth that you want to really understand, are they available? Because some of those are not as available to the crop as just a regular zinc sulfate. So keep an eye on when you're fertilizing for your corn crop. Look at those soil tests. If you're not getting a zinc test on your soil test, that's something you want to look into. You can use tissue tests as well, but it's a good idea to see it on your soil test because it does really represent what's out there in the soil and gives us a good indication what those levels are in that phosphorus to zinc relationship. So just remember, that's important. Phosphorus and zinc go together hand in hand. They can be good together or they can be antagonists, but we want them to work together in the soil. So If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, 1-800-GO-LATHAMS, or visit us on our website at lathamseeds.com. Thanks for watching.